Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Are you tired of winning yet? President Trump announces his tariffs, massive amounts of tariffs on China, Mexico, Canada, and instantly this morning, Mexico says, no, wait a second. We'll put 10,000 troops on the border between Mexico and the United States. We'll stop all the drug flow. We'll stop all the illegal immigration. We'll stop the sex trafficking. We'll help you out. President Trump says, okay, we'll put a pause on your tariffs then for a month to make sure this works as we continue negotiations. What does Canada do? Canada is so dumb. This Justin Trudeau was the worst leader possible. He doubles down. He says, we're going to tariff you, America. Now, may I remind Canada, 77% of Canada's imports come from the United States of America. You will be hammered if you do that. 17% of our imports go to Canada, but that makes up 77% of Canada's imports. So I'm going to run through some of the numbers to maybe rest your fears at ease here, to show you why these tariffs aren't going to play a big role in our economy. And already you're starting to see the markets come back. They announced the tariffs, markets drop off on open today. Now they're starting to come back. One, as Mexico falls in line. I do have some concerns about China. If China operated fairly, I would not have the concerns that I have about China that I do. But China doesn't operate fairly. So I've got some concerns about what they might do to retaliate against the United States, which in some respects is quite frightening. But in the end, this is about pushing back against the globalists. It's about pushing it back against this so-called one world order, their term, not mine, that loves the idea of putting free goods into the United States, taking advantage of our market, taking advantage of Americans. President Trump is finally saying enough is enough. Americans will not be exploited. Our border will not be exploited. And finally, the fentanyl and the drugs coming into the United States needs to stop because it's killing too many American citizens. That's what these tariffs are about. So we'll go through some of the reasons why I think they are going to work and already are. President Trump is most certainly winning. Before we do that, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals. Right now, what you are seeing is that gold is becoming the place for money. As we see all of this wrangling across the globe, the smart money is going into precious metals. We see interest rates still staying the same. We see inflation, signs of it, and we most certainly see that there's not going to be any major cutting in government spending. Look, Republicans went and had this meeting in Florida with President Trump. They could only come up with a few $100 million to cut. We need to cut trillions. Republicans could only find a few $100 million. So all of this leads me to believe gold is still the safe haven. Gold in the Trump era is going to be there for you. It has stood the test of time. My friends at Colonial Metals Group can help you secure your portfolio with precious metals, whether it's a 401k or an IRA that you want to transform into a precious metals IRA. Colonial Metals Group can help you. Freegoldguide.com is the website. That's freegoldguide.com, or call them at 800-458-7356. That's 800-458-7356. 5-6. Get in touch with my friends at Colonial Metals. I like these guys. They'll help you. All right. So President Trump doing what President Trump does best. Not to mention he took out an ISIS fighter over the weekend as well. So the Panama Canal, let's go through his wins over the weekend. President Trump takes out an ISIS fighter with drone strikes. Okay. Sends Marco Rubio to Panama. Panama now says, you know what, our certificate of memorandum with China, we're rendering it null and void. We are not going to renew our contracts with China. China is not going to run the Panama Canal anymore. We're sorry, America, that we did this. You're correct. Panama Canal, back to America, getting favored status. Then, of course, the tariffs. President Trump issues these tariffs. Mexico rolls over almost instantly, saying they're going to put 10,000 troops on the U.S. border. This is what winning looks like. This is what it looks like with President Trump at the helm. Our enemies fear us. Our allies now respect us. And we have other countries around the globe trying to help us. We've never seen it before. Not under Joe Biden. We did under President Trump. So this is President Trump talking about the tariffs last night.
Are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada?
Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them. And this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory to a certain extent. Millions of people flowed into our country through Mexico and Canada. And we're not going to allow that.
I want everyone to remember, this has a lot to do with saving Americans' lives. This is about the fentanyl that is coming in through Canada, through Mexico. And by the way, the Mexican cartels are operating in Canada, and Canada is doing nothing about it. So, again, I want to make this also very clear. My beef, President Trump's beef, is not with the Canadian people. It's with leadership of Canada. Canada needs to get in line and stop using America, living off of us. And that is the case. When you look at the numbers now, I want you to consider this. Only 15% of our gross domestic product, okay, of our economy is imported into the United States. That's it. 15% of our economy is imported, okay? 34% of what we import comes from Mexico. 27% of what we import comes from China. 6% of what we import comes from Canada. That's of what we import. That's not 15, 30% of our goods and services. That's 30% of what we import, 6% of what we import when it comes to Canada. It's not a big number. Our economy can eat that up. You're not going to get hammered. Now, you may see some individual items, prices increase. Avocados, for instance. Avocados are the number one export of Mexico into the United States, okay? Here's the real deal. Americans can live without avocados. We can't live with fentanyl. In fact, fentanyl is most certainly killing us. So when you run through these numbers, you realize it's not going to make that big a difference. 75,000 Americans, it appears, will die from fentanyl every year. That'll fill the football stadium this Sunday when the Super Bowl takes place. Think about that. A stadium full of Americans die every year at the hands of fentanyl. So we need to stop the dying. The time is now. This is President Trump. Promises made, promises kept. If anybody's surprised about this, they shouldn't be. Now, Justin Trudeau, the leader of Canada, who's stepping down soon, is so dumb. He's such an idiot. His response is not to capitulate to President Trump, is not to try to make things better. It's to come back with tariffs of his own. When you're a beta male, you can't act like an alpha male because you make stupid things and you do stupid things. This is an example of it.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Ce soir, j'annonce la réplique.
Okay. Bad move. Because President Trump says if you retaliate against us, we are going to put the screws to you even more. It appears Justin Trudeau had no idea of that. Listen to this.
When did you first learn that President Trump intends to increase tariffs if Canada retaliates, and how has that changed your strategy?
I think Canadians understand that we need to respond to this. We need to respond in a way that is appropriate.
You see the long pause? It's as if he said, wait a second. President Trump said he'd raise the tariffs even more. I want to remind everyone, 77% of the goods that Canada imports into their country come from the United States. Now, overall, we have a trade deficit with China. All right, so we send them more goods. They send us more goods than we send them. All right, we export about 427 billion. We import 481 billion. That's a deficit of about $53 billion. But the important part of this is our economy is so big that Canada only makes up a very small portion of our imports. 6% of what we import, okay, comes from Canada. And we only import 15% of our entire economy. So again, people need to stop freaking out about this and realize that what you're going to see happen in Canada is businesses flee that country, move to the United States, open up factories here, create more jobs here. We're already seeing this. There's a pancake company I saw as early as Sunday. Says, nope, we're out. We're going to the United States. We'll make our pancake mix in the United States. So Canada is backfiring. The Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri was on Meet the Press, and he responded to Justin Trudeau's ridiculous comments about trying to fire back against the United States.
It's growing, and when they have a porous border and they don't seem very concerned at all, and by the way, I heard the clip earlier, Justin Trudeau sort of lecturing Americans. My advice to him is he probably ought to talk to the Canadian people who are about ready to throw him out of office because he's been a total disaster. So I think we've got a president that wants to put America first and protect people. We have 100,000 people a year, Kristen, dying from fentanyl. He ran on this. This is not a surprise. He talked about getting operational control of our border. He talked about tariffs and improving our standing in the world. He's doing all those things. And look no further. The best evidence of this was last week. Colombia came to the table after that threat and agreed to take criminals back into their country and illegal immigrants. So the fact of the matter is it works. It worked the first time when he was in office. We didn't see inflation. We saw wage growth, and we saw more onshoring of jobs back here to the United States.
All right, this is very important. So the senator raises a great historical analogy here in that President Trump put tariffs down in his first time in office. And he tariffed things like dishwashers, other household appliances. He tariffed aluminum, which is in a lot of our products. And we saw no price increase at all. So we have a history of prices not going up when he institutes the tariffs. Now, I would also like to say this to my conservative friends. When you go out on the stump making the claim that tariffs are taxes, they are not. And in fact, what I would assume here is that when you have President Trump combining the tariffs with tax cuts, which are a must, with more energy production, which is a must, with more deregulation of businesses, which is a must, shrinking government and government spending, all of those things are deflationary. All of those things bring prices down. That's going to offset any issue we were going to see with tariffs. And two, I think you're going to see American businesses be able to compete easier now with the Canadian, Chinese, and Mexican companies that were flooding our market with goods. Let's get American companies making these products. Then we create more American jobs. Then our economy continues to take off as well. Now, I haven't always been a fan of tariffs. But when you add in what's going on our borders with the terrorists coming in and the fentanyl coming in and American lives being lost, we only have so many tools that we can use to push back. Tariffs are one of them. And it's a way you push back, and it is a way that is most certainly working. Now, when you think about President Trump and his view of the world, President Trump is sick and tired of America being taken advantage of. From the aid, billions of dollars worth we send all across this great globe, to trade coming in and people taking advantage of our markets, President Trump says it has to stop. We have the lowest tariffs, the lowest barriers to come into our market in the world. And yet other countries where we send our goods and services, they're the highest barriers. The tables are flipping thanks to President Trump, and that needs to happen. All right, hey, folks, listen to me. I don't know if you saw Bitcoin. It was down last night, down to about $94,000, still a huge number. was up around 104,000 the day before. If you don't want to deal with the wild Bitcoin swings, but you want to make money off Bitcoin, I urge you to go to this website, get21now.com. You invest with my friends at nfn8.com, NFN8, okay, that's the name of the company. You invest with them, you're investing in Bitcoin mining, all right? They will lock in a 21% annualized interest with your investment, and they will pay that out monthly. This is a hell of a deal. And so I would urge you, go fill out the form. They will call you right back. They get back to you very quickly, so take their phone call for sure. Get21now.com. Learn how you can get up to 21% annualized income paid monthly, direct deposited into your account. I'm doing it. They've lived up to their promises with me. I understand my accountant had just gone with them. I've got friends of mine that are going with them, and everybody tells a story. Nice guys, easy to deal with, and living up to their promises. So how much is right for you? You need to talk to them about it. This is all. You got to make your own decision. But get21now.com is the website I want you to go to. Do your research, and you will see that, in my humble opinion, this is a great deal for me. Get21now.com. That's get21now.com. All right, so J.D. Vance made the argument for tariffs. He went on with Maria Bartiromo, who I said to my very special lady friend, I said, boy, you know, she's got one of the best shows on television. She's one of the few I like in the mainstream media, and I include Fox as the mainstream media. She had an exclusive interview with J.D.
These tariffs will go into effect tomorrow.
Yep.
25% on Canada and Mexico, 10% on China. Are you expecting retaliation?
We'll see what happens, but I think, unfortunately, the retaliation has already happened. The problem with this whole idea that they're going to retaliate is they have already been taking advantage of America for decades. The retaliation is Donald Trump saying no more. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore, and I think it's important the president is doing what he's doing. Now, look, it looks different ways and comes in different forms, whether you're talking about Canada or China or Mexico. We know that Mexico has allowed the facilitation of the illegal drug trade and illegal sex trafficking for years and has done nothing about it. If they want to be a better partner to us, the time starts now. We know the Chinese, of course, have stolen American manufacturing jobs for 30, 40 years, and also that they facilitated the trafficking of illegal fentanyl into Mexico, where the drug cartels then bring it into our country. We are sick of being taken advantage of. We still have, thank God, the biggest economy in the entire world, the best people and the best workers. But the message from President Trump to the entire world is very clear. We are done being taken advantage of, and we have a president who looks out for the interests of American citizens. Thank God we do, and we're going to try to do it the best we can.
What a great spokesperson for President Trump to be able to put out there and explain in a concise, clear manner of why these tariffs will be a good thing and why we need them and why they are pushing back through all of this. Now, he mentioned retaliation from China and what will China do. I don't worry if China puts more tariffs on us. They already do. What I worry about are the nefarious things that China can do. I worry about releasing another virus on the world. And we know that China is capable of this because I believe this is what they did with COVID. You know, Xi Jinping shut down air travel throughout China, and then he allowed China internationally to travel from China internationally. He allowed that air travel, and COVID spread like wildfire. I believe that was a response to President Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods back then. What will China do now? China is desperate. They're like a rabid raccoon backed in a corner. They will lash out. So my biggest fear is what China does. Now, President Trump, not coincidentally, put lower tariffs on China than he did the others, and I think part of it was to feel China out. We shall see how this plays out through all of this. But this is President Trump discussing tariffs and economic plans.
Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge?
No.
You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already at the moment.
There are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
But people, a lot of places like this.
See, they don't get it. They don't understand what President Trump is doing here. He's playing poker when everybody else is playing checkers. Stop with the chess analogy. This is poker, okay? Poker, you don't always have to have a winning hand to win, right? This is what President Trump is doing. We have fentanyl already here. We know the borders have not been completely shut down. Poker, President Trump, he can bluff. He can be serious. He can also play the odds, and the odds are often in his favor when he's playing poker. So he has a lot of tools at his disposal. These folks at Bloomberg don't get it. So yes, build your factories here. Howard Lutnick is one of President Trump's cabinet members now. He, too, was talking about Trump's tariff plans and why this would work. You remember, he's the CEO and chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, which is huge investment banking firm. And just to let you know how the American people think, going into the Rumble chat, Kitty Moore writes, I'm a big avocado eater. Every morning and lunch, I'll substitute if I must, no problem. Thank you, Kitty, for making the sacrifice. I don't think you're going to need to, but we shall see, especially now that President Trump says we're putting a pause on the Mexican tariffs because of 10,000 troops going to our border. Here's Howard Lutnick.
We can't sell a Ford or GM in Europe. You go to Europe, you can't sell a Ford or GM. Why? There's 100% tariffs. How about in Japan? 100% tariffs. So do you think if we said we're going to tariff you the way you tariff us, do you think they're going to allow Mercedes and all these Japanese companies and Porsches and BMWs to all of a sudden have 100% tariffs in America? Of course not. They're going to come and negotiate, and their tariffs are going to come down. And finally, Ford and General Motors are going to be able to sell in these places.
How's that sound?
Tariffs are an amazing tool by the president to use. He understands, don't tariff stuff we don't make, right? If we don't make it, and you want to buy it, I don't want to put the price up. It's pointless, but use tariffs to build in America. If we want to make it in America, tariff it, or if we're competing with it, tariff it. In 1948, we came up with something called the Marshall Plan, right? The world, Germany and Japan were destroyed after World War II, and we wanted to export our economy to them. So we made a rule. They could tariff us, and we won't tariff them. So they can rebuild.
This is the best explanation I've heard of.
So they can rebuild their economy. When should that have ended? What do you think, 1980? Why 40 years are Japan and Germany and all of Europe still tariffing the heck out of our auto industry, tariffing the heck out of our furniture industry? Do you realize all your furniture you're buying that's made foreign? It seems crazy. Why? It's because they tariff us and we don't tariff them. It's so obvious.
It is. It's a great explanation, as the host was saying as well. And I love what he said there, and this is important. If we don't make it, don't tariff it. If we do make it, tariff it. And again, it's about a level playing field. You cannot have free trade without fair trade, and we don't have fair trade across this globe. So President Trump is trying to level the playing field. And of course, they're freaking out. This is the former finance minister of Canada.
Americans have to understand how hurt and frankly how furious Canadians are. Our sovereignty is being challenged.
No, you challenged it. Hurt by this. Why didn't you have Trudeau and everybody else shut the border down? Canadians are hurt and troubled by Justin Trudeau, which is why he's stepping down in a few months.
And so, yeah, regular Canadians across the country are coming up with ways to stand for Canada, to fight for Canada, to defend Canada, but mostly to say to our American neighbors, guys, just cut it out. Just stop it. This is a terrible idea. And yes, we are going to use all the tools in our toolbox. You mentioned a little bit earlier how the United States depends on China, critical minerals and metals that you need for semiconductors, that you need to build electric vehicles. Well, guess who also produces those? Canada. You depend on us for a lot, and we are happy to work together, but it's got to be a two-way street.
Guess what? We rely on Canada and China for those things, especially some of those metals she's talking about, because the Biden administration and the Obama administration shut down mining of those precious metals, metals used in chips, metals used for things like uranium. The United States used to be the number one producer of uranium. We don't now. So let's get back to mining for those things in the United States. Let's be self-sufficient, not reliant on foreign nations. When President Trump was in office the last time, we were 100% energy independent. Joe Biden let that go. We get back to the point of energy independence. We don't need to import energy from Canada. Again, this is all Democrat leadership that put us in this position, and ultimately Canada and Mexico in the positions they're in, instead of watching out over your friend, having your friends back, something they do not have, by the way. This is Jamie Dimon, the big banker, CEO. What is JP Morgan? On with Leslie Stahl.
In terms of advice for the new president, he is inheriting a pretty good economy, despite what people feel, all these metrics that you see. But what about
what people feel is the greatest indicator of all. And I want all of you out there, I want to ask you, do you feel going into President Trump's first term that we were in a great spot? No, nobody does. We know that it was phony, baloney nonsense and this economy was being propped up. I feel much better now. Much better now.
advice to him on some of the policies that he's threatening to do that could hurt the economy? For instance, tariffs. Have you talked to him about tariffs? If you could talk to him right now, what would you say?
I have not spoken about tariffs. I think you should read The Art of the Deal. He's a negotiator. He lays out some very tough things, and sometimes it works. We have to worry more about national security, resiliency, diversified supply chains, and we didn't.
I want to make a point to what he just said there, too. President Trump is always negotiating. So sometimes he may be bluffing. I don't think he bluffs very often. And the reason why I know it's effective what he does is because I can say I don't think he bluffs very often, but I don't know because the man is unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, it makes you a great negotiator because no one can quite figure out what you're going to do, which is why I get back to the point. President Trump plays poker, not checkers, not chess, poker. The man plays mind games on his opponents. So he is a negotiator, though. In the end, everything can be solved through negotiation. President Trump is always open to make me an offer.
Also, we should have worried more about who it hurt. So while trade's got some enormous benefits, it does hurt that town where the plant closed. We had a thing called trade adjustment assistance, which was supposed to give people retrain, relocation, income assistance if they were hurt by trade. It never quite worked. And so we need to focus on some of those issues. And to me, tariffs are a tool, properly used, that can help get some of those issues resolved. Unfair competition, national security issues. If like any tool, if it's misused, it can do damage too.
But your point is that you think it is a legitimate negotiating tool.
Absolutely. Every country is allowed to make its own unilateral actions. If you look at what China's been doing for years, they do this already. They've been doing
threaten and...
No, they put up their own tariffs, their own rules, their own rules, their own regulations. They make a lot of unilateral actions that they think are in their own best interest.
But remember what Howard Lutnick said. Places like Germany and Japan, where we allowed them to tariff us because we said, okay, we're going to help you rebuild. And then, forget about 40 years later, 80, what is it? What is it now? I mean, we're 80 years later past World War II. They're still tariffing us. That's unacceptable, right? So we've got to get back to the point of a level playing field. Negotiation's great. They're hammering us no longer.
So it's not bad for our government to do that. That tool may be a useful tool, properly used.
Not the price of eggs.
No, of course. No,
That's
inflation.
part of it, folded into it.
It was inflation. It was all the money was given out. If you go to a rural area and you look at all the things that were done, okay, those things like, even EV credits, all this green stuff, they don't look like it benefited them. They still didn't have jobs. Incomes didn't go up. Their schools weren't working. So you got to be very careful. You analyze what happened in our society about why people looked at these and said, this didn't work for me. I'm quite sympathetic. I do a lot of work with my wife in inner cities in New York, and she's been doing work in the Bronx for years. It's hard to look at parts of the Bronx and say, this worked. And this has been going on for 30 years. So, it's time that we fix some of these things. And yes, I hope we can do it.
Do you think EV credits, an Iowa farmer wants a Tesla? No. It didn't work for them. And going back to the Rumble chat, and I love our viewers because you always make such great comments. Wolverine Central writes, decades ago, the government got its money from tariffs before an individual income tax was invented. I'm okay with paying more for imports and not paying income taxes. So in a perfect world, under President Trump's philosophy, you won't even pay more for the tariff goods coming in. And here's why. They are going to have to produce it cheaper in order to get it into the market to compete with American products, because it's a free market society. If you can buy lumber from a company that's producing it out of Oregon, or you can buy lumber from a company that's producing it out of Canada, you're not going to pay more for it from Canada just because you like the lumber better. You're going to buy the American lumber, providing both of the same quality. So they're not going to be able to just come and charge more for it because the market isn't going to allow it. So they're going to have to figure out a way to produce it cheaper to offset the tariffs. So hopefully you won't have to pay any more. As I said, maybe some individual things like avocados might see a little increase, but I also believe that will be very temporary. Anyway, Wolverine Central talked about tariffs. So Andrew Jackson started with tariffs, I believe it was like 1828, maybe, something like that. 38% tariffs on imported goods. Our deficit was about $60 million. Wouldn't it be great to say our debt was $60 million? Difference between a deficit and debt. I believe it was our debt that was $60 million in America at that time. Andrew Jackson wiped it out with tariffs, and there were no income taxes. Zero. So this can work, folks, and it can work very, very well. Hey, let me tell you about my friends over at energizedhealth.com. Speaking of something that works very well, I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks on the Energized Health system. I've kept that weight off. I'm now 6 months into this program, and I've changed the way I eat around a little bit, but I still eat most of the same foods. No crazy diet, no crazy workouts. It's literally a backed-in-science program that the base of this is about intercellular hydration, not just pounding water, but hydrating your cells. And if you want to learn about that, I'd urge you to go to energizedhealth.com/grant. They've got a masterclass on there that's free as well that you can take. energizedhealth.com/grant. Full money back guarantee they offer. 99.1% success rate. This works because the secret is in the science. It's also in the simplicity. I can't tell you how easy this is. And this is for people of all ages and all sexes, women, ladies. Energized Health is doing great things for you as well. So if you want to lose 200, 250, 300 pounds, or you want to be like me and you just need to lose 10 or 15, trim it all up and get your life back, energizedhealth.com can help you. It's a mind, body, soul program that in many respects has some very Christian roots in it. When you go through this, it's nice. energizedhealth.com/grant. Learn about cellular hydration. You tell them Grant sent you. All right. All right. So as we go through this, Byron Donalds went on CNN and he made the argument for tariffs as well. And what's great is so many of us conservatives would have been pushing back about tariffs. But President Trump has opened our eyes because he's thinking out of the box a little bit, and I'm trusting him. I may have questions, but I'm going to trust him to get us to where we're going. And everything I've told you over the last, 34, 33 minutes of this podcast, I've researched and I've tried to figure out why what President Trump is doing will work, and everything is the result of my research and backed by history.
Well, I will tell you that the cost of the American people for rampant illegal immigration and for the illicit drug trade that has started with precursor materials in China to fentanyl being put together south of our border in Mexico and then trafficked into the United States, those costs have been significantly more damaging to the American people than this proposed possible trade war. At the end of the day, What President Trump is doing is that he wants China and Mexico and Canada to take our national security interests just as seriously as they take theirs. And when it comes to fentanyl, let's be very clear. The precursor material is from China. The tablets are assembled in Mexico. They come into the United States, and they are the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. So Donald Trump told everybody on the campaign trail he's going to use every tool available to secure this nation, and this is a part of it.
At least this guy on CNN, I think that's Smirkanish, didn't interrupt him. Normally they're interrupting. When you start winning the argument on this, they start interrupting you. I'm grateful he didn't interrupt him. So Byron Donalds, again, reiterating everything that I'm telling you here, that this is about saving American lives. And by the way, I do believe these tariffs will reduce our trade deficit. So with all of these countries, we have a trade deficit, meaning we import more than we export to them. Now, what is the reason for that? The reason for that is America's economy is so big, it's so large, that American companies have a hard time just providing for us. We need to import goods because we can't even handle all of our stuff. So how we're going to provide for us and export goods. That's part of why we have a trade deficit. It'd be nice to import less, right? Even if we had to export less, import less, and supply all with America and become totally self-sufficient and not have to worry on these other countries. But when you decrease the trade deficit, which I think this will do, mortgage rates come down, interest rates overall will come down, and you'll see an economy that gets spurred because the trade deficit is lower. Now, is this the end of President Trump's tariffs? Where does he go from here? I think you'd be crazy if you think it's just China, Mexico, and Canada. What about the European Union, Mr. President?
Well, you're asking me a question because I'm sure you didn't hear. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Do you want the truthful answer, or should I give you a political answer? Absolutely.
Absolutely. EU, brace yourselves. And you have not been friendly to the United States. And by the way, all these countries get money from us. I'm tired of that. We ought to impose the tariffs, stop sending foreign aid overseas, and be done with it all altogether and start taking care of America first, wipe our debt out, balance our budget so we don't have a deficit anymore. We don't have a revenue problem. Folks, we take in trillions of dollars from just income tax. Now we add tariffs onto that. Shit. We'll be able to wipe this thing out very quickly if the government can promise me it will not use the tariff money to then go spend like drunken sailors, because boy, oh boy, we know lawmakers love to spend money, and that goes for Republicans too. They've got to do everything they can to hold that together. Now, Pierre Poilievre, the conservative candidate for prime minister in Canada, he had an interesting takeaway, very different from Justin Trudeau's takeaway of American tariffs. This is what he said Canada needs to do instead.
The tariffs must not be a tax grab. None of the money from the tariffs should stay in government coffers or be spent on unrelated government priorities. All of it should go back to the workers and businesses that are affected, and most of it should go back in the form of a massive tax cut. And that is why I'm calling for the passage of an immediate emergency bring-it-home tax cut. The tax cut would be designed to save jobs, create jobs, crush inflation, and boost our economy.
So this is the kind of guy we need in the United States. So he's saying, all right, we're going to issue tariffs on the United States. Let's not use the money to go spend like I'm warning American politicians not to do. Do not use the External Revenue Service, which I love that President Trump is going to create this, the External Revenue Service, revenue from outside the United States, tariff revenue. I'm told also that IRS agents are going to stand down against American citizens, focus more on collecting tariffs. Great news for the average American. Let's not have government continue to hammer us anymore, because that's certainly how it feels. And certainly over the last 4 years, all we have had happen is we have been hammered over and over and over again. So take the tariffs, external revenue, and then you take President Trump we'll review here. President Trump's going to put in tax cuts, produce more energy, deregulate business markets and industry, shrink government spending, inflation falls to nothing. All right? This is all very, very good plan. How does he get here? So we told you about Panama in the beginning of the show. Panama, we built the Panama Canal. We sell it to $1 to them. And Panama says, okay, we're going to keep this a neutral canal. The United States should get a little preferential treatment because you built it, right? Only fair. And what happens over the years, that falls apart. China then runs into Panama, says, we'll control the Panama Canal. You give us the contract. And America says enough is enough. And in our contractual agreements with Panama is that you can't do that. It has to be a neutral canal. And that's not happening with Canada at the helm. So Trump dispatches Marco Rubio to Panama, comes back yesterday and says, hey, we got it. China's out. And don't worry, they're not going to renew the contract with China for the Panama. Fine. A win. Then we see all these immigration protests throughout the country. Some in L.A., the cops stand down. They don't even do anything. This one was in Dallas, I believe. Now, they're marching. Maybe this is Phoenix. I don't even know where they are, but they were all over the country. These idiots, these lunatics. Cops stand down. In L.A., they blocked the freeway on the 101. Cops stand down, don't do anything about it. So, of course, just encouraging them to keep going. But all we have deported so far has been the worst of the worst. I don't know what they're complaining about. So that's a win. Then you have President Trump talking about, hey, Greenland. Do you know New York is closer to Greenland than Denmark is to Greenland? Did you know that? Greenland is actually North America. So why shouldn't Greenland be in American hands? If the people of Greenland want it, I think America should take it over. Heck, we can buy it. Now, has a real national security implication, Greenland. Not only their natural resources there, but strategically from a location and a base perspective, it would be great. So Trump says this. Let's take Greenland. We'll buy it. Let's make Canada a 51st state. Panama Canal, military operations not off the table. Take back the Panama Canal. Do you understand what he's doing? He's trolling them to spark the conversation. So Victor Davis Hanson talked about this. And I want to play some of it for you, okay? This is Victor Davis Hanson, but before I do that, let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are the service provider for my phone. They are Stinchfield's Army official mobile phone cellular provider because they're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. 100% U.S.-based customer service. You're going to get the same great service you get with any other thing, only customer service is going to be better because they're based here in the United States. You choose the network you want to be on. Switching is super easy. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service. And they'll help you switch with these eSIM cards. It's nothing now. Why would you be funding the woke left? Every time you write a check to these big three cell phone companies or send money to them, they're funding places like Planned Parenthood and who knows what else, engaging in DEI policies. Get with Patriot Mobile. Know that you're helping push America in the right direction. 972-PATRIOT is the number, 972-PATRIOT. I love these guys. I know the leadership. They are out on a limb too, boy. They take arrows for us. It's about a parallel economy. Support the companies that believe in the things we do. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Give them a call today. Use that promo code GRANT for a free first month service, and you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right. I promised you Victor Davis Hanson, right? This is him talking about Trump and why he trolls, and it is a great, great, great assessment.
Two things going on with Trump when he trolls. So he looks around the spectrum of foreign policy challenges, and he has certain things he thinks needs to be addressed. And he knows it's not eccentric, that other people have mentioned it. So I'll give you an example. People for a long time have talked about, since World War II, that Greenland is in North America and it's very important. And the United States needs extra rights there to base. Then he looks at Panama, and he looks back at the treaty that Carter signed, 1979, and it gave primacy for the United States to go through and at a discount rate, and it was supposed to be free of foreign, and he sees China there. So then he looks at Canada, and he says they're under our nuclear umbrella, they're not paying their fair share of the defense, the border is open, and they've got a radical. So then he looks at Mexico, and he says they've got $63 billion in remittances that's coming in. It's their largest source of foreign exchange, and yet that comes in from anywhere from 12 to 20 illegal aliens, many of them who are on public assistance that we're subsidizing. It's the largest source of foreign exchange, and yet they let caravans come right through from Guatemala.
Victor Davis.
So it's all about the troll. Now, no other president can really do this, or at least no other president has done it. One, Donald Trump understands the media and how it operates. He also understands emotion. Even me, as a radio and TV guy, I understand that if I can invoke an emotion to you, I will get a response and I will get you to watch. And I love, like on the Facebook channel, Facebook completely limits us to who watches, not like Rumble, where we have hundreds at any given time watching us on Rumble. We'll have, lately it's been a few dozen, but before it used to be like one or two. And there are always these crazy liberals that are watching. They love to watch. Why? Because I invoke an emotion from them. They hate what I have to say. And they hate that it's a good argument and that it could be true. Now, on the other side of that, I also invoke an emotion from other conservatives. It's, if you love what I say, you get happy, it makes you feel good, so you want to watch as well. The best way to educate is to entertain people. So that's what I try to do. President Trump completely understands that. And the troll is the most entertaining form of entertainment possible, because you're always waiting, what is he going to say next? But it gets you talking, as Victor Davis Hanson said. It gets you talking about what he's trolling. It gets you talking about the topic. And that's something that Republicans had a real hard time doing, was controlling the narrative from the mainstream media. Here, Hanson continues.
Bring attention to them by being art of the deal outrageous. So instead of saying we're very worried, if he was a sober and judicious politician, he'd say, I'm very worried about China. There are some ambiguities in the treaty, and this is a concern, and I'm bringing a bipartisan commission to. No, he's going to say, China's taken it over. We might have to go in there. I won't rule out the force. Then he'll say, why doesn't Greenland just come join the United States? We'll buy it. Or he'll say, the Gulf of Mexico, why isn't it the Gulf of America? Or then he'll say, Canada, we can make it a 51st state. So that's outrageous, and that gets attention. And then people start to discuss the real problem, because there are real problems there. And then there's another element that it's trolling, because the more you start to talk about it, and you dismiss Trump as the Europeans who is boisterous, divisive, eccentric, you start to look at other realities, and the realities are irony. Take the Gulf of America. So Trump says, it's time to be Gulf of America. How you like that, Mexico? But then you look at the coastline. The coastline of the Gulf of America is 1,700 miles on the U.S. side, and it's 1,700 miles on the Mexican side. It's been Gulf of Mexico for 400 years. And the left introduced into the popular discourse the idea that there are no names sacrosanct. If you have the Woodrow Wilson Center, change it. The Hollowed Boat Hall, change it. So he's saying, well, they change names. They do it, not me. So I'm just going to change the name. They've had 400 years. It'll be in Gulf of America. We have the same amount. It's fair. And that gets people upset. And then Mexico gets upset. And then suddenly Mexico says, we'll stop that caravan.
Well, look at what Mexico did now with the tariffs. Mexico said, all right, we're going to put 10,000 troops on the soldier. President Trump pauses the tariffs. That happened today. That's the breaking news. And it shows you what President Trump is doing is working. So, and think about changing the names. You know, what did the left do? They went around and changed every freaking name. My kid's elementary school was Stonewall Jackson Elementary from the longest time possible. I have a friend I play golf with. He's in his late 70s. He went to Stonewall Jackson, the same elementary school as my son in Dallas, Texas. They changed the name. Mockingbird Elementary School. He didn't go there anymore. My son's in high school now, but they changed the name. So if they can change the name, we can change the name. I don't want to be as prolific as changing names, and I don't want to change names because, I didn't like the person or this, that. No, let's change names that make sense. Why should it be the Gulf of Mexico? We're the strongest nation in the world. It should be the Gulf of America.
And let's negotiate. And then Panama, he says, well, you think we're an imperial power? You're against imperialism and Yankees? You brought in the Chinese. They're worse imperialists than we are. You're a colony of China. And that gets a further iron. Then he says to the Danish, you're lecturing me that I'm getting in your internal affairs? You're a little tiny country, and you are a colonial power. You've got this big continent, and you're acting like you're a 19th century colonial. And this is coming from the EU? And you look at Greenland, the distance from New York to Greenland is shorter than from Greenland to Copenhagen. And Greenland's in North America, so it's 19th century, 18th century Europeans coming into North America and colonizing. And I want to let the people of Greenland decide. And the same thing with Canada. He's saying, well, maybe you should defend yourself because, we don't want people to be our colony, and we have all this one-way trade with you. I guess we're a mercantile colonial power where the British learned that colonialism didn't work. So either be part of us or just stop it. Just go your own way but if you don't and you want to have a symmetrical, you better close the border. And you better have reciprocal trade charges, and you better pay up if you want to be a partner. But if you want to be a colonial subject, then keep doing what you want, and we'll treat you that way. So there's irony in all of these, but the point of all of them is to bring attention in an eccentric fashion and get something done quickly. This MAGA movement is now incorporating people across the spectrum, whether it's RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, all the way over to Horowitz, Andreessen, David Sachs, Elon Musk, Ramaswamy. So what that means is take taxes for the middle class. So if you say...
So first off, what he's talking about, the MAGA movement, and it is a populist movement. It's also an inclusive movement, no matter what the left wants to tell you. President Trump wants everyone to be successful, and he believes in the middle class and the power of the middle class for this country. That you move people out of poverty into the middle class, our whole nation explodes. You get more rich people? Absolutely. Isn't that a good thing? But why is the left so focused on who's rich and who's not and the difference between rich people and middle class people? Who cares what the difference is? I would love to have 1 million billionaires in America. But if I have everybody in middle class, perfect. Get most of America in the middle class, get a bunch of billionaires, get some rich people, fine. What I don't want is a burgeoning underclass where they can't get out of the traps of poverty. And that's what America has set up. It's set up a burgeoning underclass that makes it very difficult to escape. And that's thanks in large part to Democrat policies, liberals that benefit from these poor people needing things, needing government handouts. The politicians on the left benefit from that because they think it's going to get them votes. And why wouldn't it if you're going to get free things? The problem is it holds people back. And this has been proven over and over and over again. So President Trump's troll is working. And President Trump's ability to inform the masses is also bringing people from all over into this party. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., I'm told the deep state is going crazy right now, doing everything they can do to sink these nominations. They don't want them in place. And so we've got to make sure that Republican lawmakers stand firm to what will be more crazy stories. Leaks will come out as we try to get these people confirmed. Boy, they're vipers in Washington. All right, a little more of Victor Davis Hanson.
You float the idea that you're going to reduce taxes for veterans, first responders, waitresses, Social Security. You're talking $1 trillion. And then you've got Vivek and Elon saying they want to cut between 1 and 2 trillion, but they can't touch entitlements or defense. So you're down to 30% of the budget, but you're going to cut a trillion. So the theory is that by cutting those taxes and the regular tax cuts, you're going to grow the economy more than 2% GDP, maybe get 3, and then you're going to get another $1 trillion. But again, nobody's ever quite done that. Cut taxes like Reagan did, and then say that you're going to control spending or cut. Reagan didn't do it, so he got deficits, and so did George W. Bush. But last time...
But you notice they got deficits because he just said it, and I don't want to gloss over it. Because he didn't do what they need to do, and that's cut spending. So first and foremost, you can cut taxes, but you also need to cut spending. You do both of those things. And I do believe that cutting taxes can spur economic growth. Ultimately, you're taking in more taxes, but you have a lower rate. All right? Just like 10% of, $100,000 is a lot greater than 50% of $10, right? So you're going to spur more income to be taxed at a lower rate. You still take in more revenue. The problem is you have to cut spending, and that's what lawmakers in Washington have such a hard time doing. I'm not convinced it'll happen. I don't have great faith in lawmakers in Washington. President Trump's going to need them to get on board with this, and it's such razor-tight margins, and we've got Republicans who are out to lunch when it comes to cutting spending. I don't know if it happens, but we've got to try.
He inherited sort of a uneasy world where you had to restore deterrence. Well, this time it's worse. So the MAGA people are going to have to understand that to restore deterrence, so you don't have to even think about getting an option, you're going to have to use force. Sometimes that's going to be an optional. That's another challenge, I think. And you saw the one about the H-1B visas. That's another one. So MAGA says we're not going to bring in foreigners to do the work Americans can do. The Vivek, Elon says, but we're going to bring in people that we need in Silicon Valley. And between those two poles, you're going to have to find a compromise. And I think the compromise is if they're only coming in with BAs, and there's a lot of Americans can do that. If they're coming in with masters and PhDs and they're unique in their field, then of course bring them. But these are just 3 examples. And the cause of that is that they had not won the popular vote, the Republicans, in 20 years since George W. Bush, who barely did it in 2004, and they had lost 7 out of the last 8 popular votes. So to break that legacy, baleful, they had to expand the party.
And we did. President Trump did. All of you did. You have a role in that, in expanding this party. It wasn't just President Trump. It's about all of you going out there, taking what you learn on podcasts like this and others, the Real America's Voice show, taking that to the streets and recruiting people in. And people were fed up now as they wake up to damage that the left has done. Hey, folks, before I let you go, isn't that a tip that the podcast is over? Wait till before I let you go. Don't leave me yet, though. You see what this is? This is the coolest freaking thing going. This is the wellness company's new field kit. So, that other kit that I have is great when it comes to prescription medications, but this is the master of all masters. And I'll open it up here so you can see inside it. They got EpiPens in here, the guidebook, there's steroids in here. There's basically everything you would need to keep you and your family safe in most emergencies, including ivermectin in this field kit as well. This is cool. With the EpiPen, every household should have one of these. That will really save a life. There's no doubt about it. Many of these other drugs will as well. So antibiotics, antiparasitics, antivirals in here to keep yourself safe in this great kit that look, could survive a nuclear blast, it looks like. This is the Wellness Company's field kit. TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. TWC.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right. Tonight on the Real America's Voice show, my friend Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze. I go on her show a lot, and she's going to come on mine, and she's going to talk about her experience at these riots. I call them riots because they overtake the streets. They're riots. These illegal immigration lovers that took to the streets to so-called protest President Trump's immigration policies. It's really rioting over them. Anyway, Sarah did a great job. We're going to have her on, show you some of the clips that she had tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time on that. And President Trump also, we didn't talk a lot about it, taking out an ISIS leader, an attack planner with a drone strike. We're getting into the nitty gritty of that on the Real America's Voice show. Again, the media doesn't want to talk about that because of why. It's winning. They don't like talking about winning and President Trump winning. Well, we are winning. And you know where we're really winning? On Rumble. God bless all of you, man. We always get a great audience there. Facebook is building back. I don't know if Zuckerberg's staying true to his word. Well, we dropped half the audience when I said our liberals like to watch there. I think they probably got off very, very quickly. And then, of course, our Getter audience and Twitter audience, we're grateful to them, too. Folks, thank you. Stinchfield 1776, please like this, share this, copy the link, share it everywhere you can, and then we'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight. If you have problems finding me anywhere, just go to my website, GrantStinchfield.com. You can sign up for the email list there, too. But if you have any questions about where you can find me, just go to the website. All the information is there, GrantStinchfield.com. That is going to do it for us, folks. Thanks for watching. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you tonight.